Welcome to the Audio Description Network Alliance. We're so proud to have yet another great and brilliant narrator. We are having Joe McQuillin join us. Thanks, Joe.
Well, high praise indeed, and glad to be here. Thank you.
So good to have you. What do you love about audio description?
I of all of the voiceover media that I work in, it's one of my favorites because it's so tangible. You know what you're doing, you know where the project is going. The number of internet videos that you do or the corporate videos, you never really get to see the final product. But I know that I can go log into HBO Max and go watch Perry Mason or something and listen to myself or, send it to my parents. I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile and good in the world.
And with all the other voiceover experience that you have, it sounds like that's a really great distinguishing factor that it is that tangible. Are there any things that are the same as far as what you bring to your voice when you're doing audio description narration? Maybe some training that you've had in voiceover that came in really useful or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think that, with audio description, like any other form of narration or voiceover work, it's all about knowing your audience and being able to connect with the content that you're describing because it's not all robotic. I mean, I know that a lot of places are now using AI voices for audio description, which maybe in some instances that's appropriate. Though as a voice artist, I hate to say that. But I think that you need to be able to connect with the script and what the filmmakers are trying to convey. For instance, the tone that I used for, let's say, Coastal Elites, which was kind of a comedy, not really a mockumentary, but kind of a comedy set of monologues, is very different than what I would do for something for Animal Planet with the Lone Star Law, where it's very intense and you're supposed to bring that severity to it. Whereas the Coastal Elites might be a little bit more lighthearted. And so I think that training translates pretty well.
Very cool. I'm glad to know that you're bringing it. You said it's important to know your audience. Can you expand a little bit about that? Like how you connect with your audience, maybe some influences that they've had on your performance?
Man, that's a great question. I think it's as simple as thinking about who's watching this and how do they feel about it, or how do the creators want them to feel about it? What emotion is trying to be conveyed here? Now, that sounds easy enough, but it really can be difficult, especially since you're bringing your own emotion, your own feelings to it. And, anything that's happening in your life, I think you also bring into your reads. And so if I'm having a really terrible morning and nothing is going well and I need to voice something that's supposed to be funny, I might struggle with that a bit more.
That's a great example. Yeah. Well, can you name maybe an experience you had specifically with audio description that you found maybe a little more challenging and something that you're really proud of how you overcame it? If you can name any, as many or as few specifics as you'd like.
Yeah, a couple of examples. It was kind of a trial by fire for me. I got into audio description because I should say that I wasn't terribly familiar about what it was until I put it out to a Facebook group that said, "Hey, where do you all hear voices?" So to speak. And a former colleague of mine said that, well, audio description. And so it's like, that's a cool idea. So I hit Google, and my first call to Rick Boggs in California caught him while he was heating up a burrito. And he said, I've got 45 minutes to chat. And we chatted for, I think it was an hour and a half, just about audio description. And he said, great. Well, I've got some projects coming up. I'll throw them your way. I'm like, cool. And so before I knew it, I was getting an email from somebody on his staff that said, hey, yeah, just sync it to the video and send it back over to me via WeTransfer. I'm like, okay, I'm an audio guy. I'm not a video guy. And so it was really trying to figure out just the technical details of getting it plugged into my software and syncing it up to the video and hoping that everything worked out well. One of the biggest challenges I had was for a film I did. It's a Russian film called Sputnik. And it was, I swear, the most stressful 5 minutes of my life narrating the credits because they're all Russian names and I'm not familiar with the Russian language at all. And so just working through that, and I was amazed that I only had one or two pickups after that. But I think that the approach that I bring to it is really just to jump in and say, absolutely, I can do that. And, Google's your friend, and there are a bunch of great people in the industry that you can turn to and say, how do you do that? How do you do this?
So it sounds like a collaboration with a lot of production as well as Rick Boggs and his team. And it does sound like there's a lot of different roles that are in even your experience that kinda touch on what you need to do and how you need to deliver, and that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, based on what you know about audio description, where would you love for it to go in the future if you could have any wish you want?
You know, I would love to see audio description not be an afterthought. I wonder if that's even possible. Not being a filmmaker myself, it'd be interesting to see if people could approach video content with audio description in mind. And so there are, a number of projects now that, you've got the script ready to go, but there's a note in the script that says, cut due to timing, cut due to timing, cut due to timing. And so it takes a back seat. And I wonder how it is content producers could maybe retool or rethink about how they're presenting content visually that would make the description a little easier.
That's a great point. Yeah. And that kind of afterthought, it is, as more industry people, we just interviewed Doug Rowland, and he talked about his experience making a short film with audio description and how he's always going to include it in any future films that he do. That
Yeah.
that's one of thousands of filmmakers, but his exposure to it, just him simply being aware of it, was enough to tip that scale for him.
Hmm.
It sounds like you've really been proactive in your career, whether it's audio description or otherwise, that there is a real clear go get 'em attitude that's working for you. Can you, maybe share an experience about something that maybe somebody else helped you along on your career, and something that maybe you were stuck at before, but now you've instead of you overcoming the obstacle, that somebody else helped you, overcome something?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I have one specific thing that stands out. Although I remember talking with a fellow voice artist, Scott Burns, great guy based in Seattle. We were just kind of shooting the breeze. He was helping me get set up with a couple agents up there. And I said, I'm waiting for that silver bullet to really have everything in voiceover, come my way and I can have my pick of all the gigs. And he said, there's no silver bullet here. There's no one thing that happens to you in voiceover that means that you've made it. I see myself and a lot of people on the voiceover artist forums who are saying, how did you break into this? How do you get your big break? And it's almost as though the attitude, and my attitude was certainly the same, that it's one event that happens. When I got my first professional demo done, I was like, I have arrived. Everything is going to start rolling in. The offers are going to be here, and I'll just wait. You got the crickets going. And so I'm like, okay, sign up for voices.com or any of the other pay to play sites. And you think, man, there's no way that my audition is going to be at the bottom of the heap. It's going to happen now. And okay, well, I guess I'm, number 14. Who knows? And then the same thing with the agents, and then the agent, and then you add a couple more agents, and you think, okay, this is it. And what I'm learning is that you kind of get a little bit from everywhere. It really is a grind. It really requires a lot of work. It's not a passive industry at all that happens to you. It's something that you really, if you want to make something happen, you need to go out and figure out the best way to make it happen.
Anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Boy, I guess I'll say that you should never be surprised at where the next opportunity is going to turn up, or what's going to happen. And so I guess I couch that in the arena of people who are thinking about getting into voice work. When I started, I was all about the Don LaFontaine voiceovers, and I really was excited for the first time I could say "in a world," but that still hasn't happened for me, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the changing industry. I mean, if you listen to a movie trailer now, most of them don't use that narrator, that voiceover anymore. It's changing, and so I think be prepared to be surprised about what calls to you as a voice talent, and where you can start to find your niche.
It sounds like you're really paying attention to not only the culture, but also paying attention to your own process as that grows and evolves and adapts when the rug's pulled out from under you and you're dodging the silver bullets.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first got into this, my wife and I took a vacation to Mexico, and she thought that maybe I wanted to find something else career-wise. And she said, "So what do you wanna do with your life?" I said, "Well, I'd love to be a voiceover artist." I mean, it just sort of came out. She said, "Hmm, okay. Well, what the hell are you waiting for? That sounds like one of the most, attainable goals you could achieve." It's like, "That's a good point." And so, it started as a hobby and then took off from there.
Sounds like there's, 2 major influences in your, perspective, including your wife and and your
Oh,
friend up in
absolutely, yeah.
Seattle, among many others, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Joe, how can
I
people
was
stay in
glad
touch
to
with
find.
you on social media or, something you feel comfortable sharing publicly?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook presence, and that's one of the areas that I'm still trying to navigate professionally. I know how to say happy birthday to people and comment on cute pictures of puppies. But no, you can find me on Facebook. MCQ Voices is kind of the handle that I use for everything. I also have a website, mcqvoices.com, and I'm pretty findable on LinkedIn as well.
Very cool. Thanks so much for joining us, Joe.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. This was fun.